the veterans of the Ranger battalions. And the Fort Benning, Georgia, they have a museum and not a lounge, but if you're an ex-Ranger and you get down to Fort Benning, treat them well.
We're going this way, Mr.
Oh,
Evans.
that way, okay.
Yeah, we're at the Mass.
There's that thing again.
Yep. Oh, is this your?
Okay.
Is this your? I'm
This-
sorry. You can tell. You can introduce.
That was,
it.
I never really used it because I never got into the field, but this is what I was talking about, the armbands
Right.
that they stopped wearing. Because the ones that went out with the Marines, that was a target.
Yeah, we're looking at an armband here. And a rating description. Oh, okay. There we are.
You got it?
Yep.
All kinds of letters from President Truman thanking me for service.
So, what did you think of your? We haven't we've discussed it a little bit, but what did you think of the officers that you served under?
Most of them were good. The problems we had was the doctors, because they took a lot of doctors that didn't belong there. The doctor that was at the Holy Cross unit was a dermatologist. We got all these hundreds of men, they're getting injured in exercise and all that. He was. They replaced him eventually with Commander Crumbar, who was a pediatrician. They were doctors.
Yep.
And they put him eventually they pulled out and they sent him to Seattle, Washington, to a Navy Dependence Hospital. That's where he should have been to start with.
Mm-hmm.
Things like that.
What did you think of your fellow seamen at the time? Are there ones that you kept in contact with after the war?
Yeah, I kept talking to one fellow in particular,
What's his name?
Clayton Blevins. He passed away a few years ago. I stayed in touch with him for 50 years. We visited. He originally was out of Cambridge, Mass., and he became in charge of grounds and operations at Franklin and Marshall College in Lancaster. And I was living in Metuchen. So it was a relatively easy trip. And we got together. And after he died, my wife and I stayed in touch with his wife. And unfortunately, she passed away a few years ago. But it was a long-time relationship. It was a good relationship.
Did you keep a diary during your service? No?
Never kept a diary.
So you stayed at Pearl Harbor till the end of your service.
Right.
Do you remember when the day your service ended?
Oh, yeah.
Where were you?
Lido Beach.
I mean, I knew, well, yeah, where were you you were saying, I'm sorry, go
Well,
ahead.
I went from Pearl Harbor, Treasure Island, California,
Mm-hmm.
and then they put us on trains to take us east to Long Island for discharge. Like 5 days to go across country by train. Yeah, in Lido Beach, they took over this place and they made it a center for discharging. Yeah.
So you're discharged from the Navy. Where did you go? Did you go, I should say, where did you go to school? Did you go to work?
Yeah, okay. We lived an hour away. My parents lived an hour away from where I got discharged.
Right.
And I applied to go. I guess I got all wound up. I decided I was going to be a pharmacist.
Okay.
And I applied and I was accepted at Brooklyn College of Pharmacy. It was part of Long Island University. And I started in September. I was discharged in April. School started in September. Unfortunately, I met my wife late in April. after the first year of college, and we were gonna get married and move to New Jersey, because it didn't work.
Right.
And there was another reason. My father had a candy store, worked 7 days a week. At that time, the drugstores, there weren't like CVS's and all that. And
Right.
it was a 7 day a week, certainly 6 days a week. And I said, nah, it's not gonna work. And I opened a hardware store
Where'd you open the hardware store?
in Metuchen, New Jersey. And had it with my brother-in-law 30 years or more. And while I was there, I took it into my head I was gonna be a teacher. Now I've got 3 girls, I got a family, I got a business, I'm gonna be a teacher. So I applied to Rutgers nights. And that's what I did. 10 years I went nights,
Yeah.
raising a family, working in the store, and I got my degree. But just a year or 2 before that, we were gonna go to Florida, because 2 of my girls are now living in Florida. Lesson number 1, never follow your children, because they leave. And I went down to Boca Raton, and I went to the school district, and I told them I'd like to think about working there. And they offered me a job, $7,000 a year.
What year was that? Do you remember?
Yeah, about 1972, maybe. And my wife said, and I never forgot it, and how do you propose we're gonna live on this money?
Yeah.
And that was the end of my teaching career.
Did you join a veterans organization after the war?
I'm in there now. I'm still a Jewish war veteran.
Jewish war
And
veterans?
I'm over here now in Cherry Hill,
Okay.
transferred up. I joined down in Florida. I
Right.
lived there 25 years.
Do you remember the post numbers, the one in Florida and the one in New Jersey?
This is 246, I think.
Okay.
It's on the back of my hat. But the one in Florida was 400 something in Delray Beach. But yeah, I'm still in this one. I go to some meetings.
Do you attend any reunions?
No,
No?
there are no reunions.
There are no reunions. Okay.
No, because maybe some of the ships had unions.
Right,
They were together longer, maybe.
right,
Army units have reunions.
right.
We had no, as to say, just the one fellow I stayed in touch with all those years. I took a driving trip out west one day, and I got to somewhere in Arizona. We stopped for lunch, and all these fellows were sitting around, and it was a reunion. I don't know, it was American Legion or whatever it was. And I said, I didn't have this. I didn't have this.
Right.
And my brother-in-law, till he passed away, he went all over the country first of all, he ended up being national commander.
Right.
So, yeah, and hardly anybody has one of these.
Oh, what's that?
This is what every man in the Navy had. This was your health record.
Your health record, all right.
And I made a duplicate because it was in the sick bay. That's where they were kept. And every time you were moved, transferred, promoted, whatever it was, it went into that. And
So it's not only your health record, but it's also your
it's really a service record.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
it's
yeah.
twofold.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. My dog tags. What else? What else?
Can I ask you,
Yeah, my discharge.
do you think your experience in the military has influenced how you feel or you're thinking about war, or The
Absolutely.
military in general,
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah.
before and coming out now, or after you came out?
Yeah. I got to give you an update.
Sure, go ahead.
This happens to be my discharge papers. While I was in the Navy, one of my friends sent me a letter. This was after I got to Pearl Harbor on the
Right.
way back. And his ship was one of the ships went in for the surrender on September 2nd in Tokyo Harbor.
Yeah.
And on his envelope, they had stamped Tokyo Bay. I was a stamp collector before, but I said, this is philatelic.
Yeah.
And it was a souvenir.
Yeah.
And I put it aside. About, I don't know, 7, 8 years later, I went to a stamp show, and there was a table there, men recruiting for this club that collects envelopes from Navy ships and the ship's histories.
Right.
And I joined. I've been in it ever since. And